Hi everyone, my name is Bruce Schwartz. I'm from Montreal, Quebec. This is my podcast called The Darkside. Some interesting topics tonight. We're going to talk about Valiant Thor. Have you ever heard of Valiant Thor? It's apparently a true story, but again, we don't have any facts about anything in general in our lives, right? But it's still a very interesting story. I believe there's some credibility to it. Possibly Valiant Thor, the man from Venus who visited Earth, was possibly presented to us to test us, to see our reactions, to see what we think of the story. There were movies also presented about Valiant Thor. Apparently, he's still on Earth. I mean, his UFO's at not far from Lake Mead called Victor something, but we're going to get into that because it's very interesting. Several people have spoken about Valiant Thor before, and he's known as your friendly Pentagon alien. So let's take a look exactly what the story is of Valiant Thor, the man from Venus. Very interesting. Today, we're going to open up the book of great legends from the realm of ufology. Have you ever heard of ufology? And we're going to turn to the story of Valiant Thor, a benevolent Venusian from Venus, who lived among us for 3 years apparently, and this would be in the late 1950s. Well, the story is passionately believed by a few people and has also been promoted as a fact, by the way, remember what I'm telling you now, on several TV shows, for example, such as Ancient Aliens. And it was dramatized in the 2013 film short called Stranger at the Pentagon. Take a look if ever you're curious. Today we're going to look at the facts of the story, and we're going to look at the context in which it was told, and we're going to try and see if we can conclude whether Valiant Thor truly did visit our planet. The story of Valiant Thor did not exist until 1967, when it was revealed to the world in the book, as I said, Stranger at the Pentagon by Reverend Frank E. Stranges. Stranges was a traveling Christian evangelist who also wrote books about UFOs and gave lectures at UFO meetings. A deeply religious man, they say he was, Stranges believed that aliens visited the Earth in order to spread the word of God. Very interesting. In Stranger at the Pentagon, he wrote that he was concluding a sermon one day when a mysterious woman showed up and invited him to the Pentagon. There he was, introduced to Valiant Thor, the supposed man from Venus, visiting Earth. An alien who had come to Earth to offer us all the technologies we'd ever need, to caution us against nuclear weapons. The two friends became very close and spent much time together, during which Stranges learned Val's entire story. They had landed on March 16th, 1957 on our planet with a 3-year mission to invite the Earth to join the interstellar community, who had their eyes on us ever since, when, you say? Take a guess. That's right, the atomic bomb blasts, way back in World War II. Valiant Thor was brought to meet President Eisenhower and Vice President Nixon, who put him up in an apartment at the Pentagon. Supposedly, he traveled and met with many government officials. There are even some pictures. You could look them up. Then, at the end of his mission, he dematerialized on March 16th, 1960. So they say. Some say because there are films out on this that it's a red flag. But yet, these days, a lot of people say that films tell a lot of truth. And again, if Valiant Thor was presented as being Valiant Thor, maybe there's another name, as a theory, another name that was presented so that people won't know the true identity, but maybe checking people's reaction. And again, just a theory. You know, Hollywood, they fall in love with an ideal. They did it with Charles Manson. They did it with everything and anything that happened that got a lot of media attention, they made a film about it. Like I said, there are some images with the president that we see this guy, Valiant Thor, which, by the way, looks totally human, even though he is from Venus. So let's go see some more details and the rest of the story. Now, hang on. I'm reading some of your minds. Now, Bruce, focus on your research and never mind the what's and ifs. Well, I'll tell you what, I agree with that, but I'll tell you another thing. Stories like Valiant Thor and accumulating all the facts, evidence, and proof takes a long time for anyone that wants to take the time to do it. But when you do, sometimes you see things that others maybe did not get the chance to research and or to see themselves, so I try to share it. As compared to the researchers talking to everyone about the types of aliens, what they looked like, what their ships looked like, in reality, that, for me, will always remain myth until proven. We've all encountered, maybe not all of us, but many of us encountered spiritual people, right? Whether it be our imagination, whether it be our hearts that are driving us to wildly, passionately imagine that aliens exist and that we see them everywhere. Well, I'll tell you what, whether aliens exist or not is not the reason why I started the channel. The reason why I started the channel is that there's a lot of things out there that everyone can see for themselves without having to break or hurt anyone. It's common sense. All the files out there on the internet of truth are jumbled up with files of not truth, right? Of lies. But when you start skimming through everything, excuse the expression, but the bullshit is seen really quickly for those that are awake. Now, they say there's a few problems with this story. Me, I just wanted to share the story. I'm not going to linger on all the put downs that they're talking about it, but I do want to share some facts and truth. But again, even these supposed facts that I'm sharing with you, you're going to have to do your own research. So there are problems with Strange's credentials. In which way? Well, his author's biography says that he received a bachelor's degree in theology plus PhDs in both psychology, philosophy, from Faith Theological Seminary in Florida. But Faith Theological Seminary is a real accredited religious college, but it does not offer PhDs in either discipline. It doesn't mean that he said he got the PhD there, but maybe because of going to Faith Theological Seminary college, it permitted him to further his career and then get a PhD. In his later years, he began also claiming a PhD in criminology from the National Institute of Criminology in Washington, D.C., but there is no such institution. There are several unaccredited universities with similar names overseas, but none of them offer PhDs at all. Nevertheless, Strange's has written as Dr. Frank E. Strange's ever since. It could be a pseudonym that he gave himself, right? That's what I believe. Stranger at the Pentagon had exactly two people who have corroborated its contents. Harley Andrew Byrd, who wrote the book's foreword, a self-described Project Blue Book investigator and nephew of Admiral Richard Byrd. Have you ever heard of Admiral Byrd? Laura Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of the president who worked with Valiant Thor, apparently. However, it turns out both of them are poor sources. So they say. Harley Andrew Byrd is probably not who he says he is. Records on Ancestry.com, they say, can't really confirm or disprove the possibility. So why even mention it? That Admiral Byrd had a nephew by this name. So why even mention what we can't confirm? So when I read around in the research of what people are saying about Valiant Thor, it's an immediate goal to put the story down, and yet you have to wonder why Russia wants to land a man on Venus. And have you heard? Someone is going to Venus, a private space company funding their own research are going to Venus to look for life. So depending on how deep you are in all of this story and controversy about aliens and about beings coming to Earth. Well, when you read all the stories, there's a lot of things that the other stories have similarities with some of the other stories. Is it because they're taking that evidence and trying to integrate it in their own stories? So humans are liars. It is so easy for someone to come up with a bogus theory that is so convincing that people will more or less believe the bogus theory as compared to the facts, or even try themselves to try to research themselves to find out their own facts. If there's one important piece of information that I could give everyone who is searching for truth, which is basically everyone in the world, most likely, even the ones not admitting it, we're all here to find some type of truth. Some dig deeper, like me and you, but not everybody digs so deep. And often, because humans are trusting people, we trust the media, we trust the system, and there's nothing wrong with those people. I don't hate them for doing so. But it's sad that they won't open their eyes, even when you politely try and mention to them that something's going on. You know, we've become very dominant as a human race. I know it should be the opposite. We should be evolving and bettering ourselves. But for some people states of minds like the elites, bettering yourself is making more money and being stronger than others, which is, by the way, part of Satanism, to become the one. So there's a lot of competition in some of those dark associations and what they're doing. They present themselves as very smiley-faced, loving, religious people. And then, then when you invest time in researching about these religious associations or sects or cults, whatever you want to call them, it's all about domination. It's all about bettering yourself and dominating the world. So when you hear about stories about extraterrestrials or about aliens, like someone came to my channel often, like we all know Linda Moulton Howe, and said, Bruce, well, if you're seeing that on the moon, it really corroborates with Linda Moulton Howe. Well, then that should be the lead that all researchers take, where the truth comes out so we can build a case against the elites and prove to the rest of the world without having to pay any money or change anything or to break people's arms. Just present this channel here. I'm trying to show as much truth as I can in my research, but the science is wrong. I'm sorry, that's what I believe. Science is a theory. It's always evolving and it's always changing. Science will never be the same. Each and every day there's something new in science that goes against another mathematical equation, for example, that Einstein brought to us, and all the relativity and the theories of relativity. There's always a little piece that sometimes doesn't fit. And don't forget, Einstein rounded down the numbers really to a small point, but he didn't round it down to the source. So we're always off on no matter what we calculate about in space, about calculating how to get to Mars, and that's another thing, when you get off of the planet, all laws of physics that are here, whether you're smart or not, you can know by doing a little bit of research that the laws of physics are not the same the minute you leave Earth. It's not going to be the same around Mercury. It's not going to be the same around Mars. And that's how it is. So my message to you, my friends, are to keep your minds open. So when I present something on the moon, which I've often done, that goes completely against the laws of physics, showing the lights on the surface, the smokes and hazes, for many, many years on the moon, not Venus, I wish, people were telling me, Bruce, it's not right. Science tells us there's no smoke on the moon. There's no smoke in microgravity, and it doesn't do. So then I started doing research, and it comes, if there's smoke in microgravity, which is low oxygen environment, well, smoke will react differently to the smoke that's here on Earth. So will fire react differently in microgravity, low gravity environment, as compared to a higher gravity environment. Whether the moon has higher or lower gravity, it's been written that it's lower, whatever, that has a small, almost, invisible atmosphere. But now we're seeing all these truths coming out where they're admitting there's water. They're admitting that now there are pits and tunnels like in lava tubes that they could build bases in, and the temperature in degrees are 17 degrees Celsius. As compared to that moon that they told us was ever so cold and minus 400 to 500 degrees Celsius inside of the craters. At night, it plunges down to an incredible freezing temperature. We can only take what they give us as information to understand ourselves. So I do use information like distances from the moon. I use, temperatures in space. But then there's nothing wrong with analyzing or theorizing as long as you're telling people it's a theory, not that it's a fact, that you don't agree with certain things. I know a lot of you don't agree with many things that they are presenting to us in space, but hang tight and have confidence, my friends, because as for Valiant Thor, which we're going to go right over to now and finish off the rest of the story, it's just a bunch of things that I want to bring to everyone's attention. Don't stay stuck on anyone's theory. Not Linda's theory, not my theory, not anyone's theory. You can appreciate a theory, but if you start looking into the Anunnaki and Planet X and then the Book of Enoch, and then what you're going to do is you're going to open your mind to a whole bunch of new possibilities, but be sure that it doesn't hold you back, because some of us remain stuck, which is normal, on certain theories that we believe. Even me, hard sometimes to let go of some theories. But as you all taught me, Bruce, some of the lights that you're seeing on the moon can be absolutely just drones. I mean, okay, it's true, and I have no proof to say anything against it, but let's not always go towards the negative part of things. The only reason why I mentioned there were aliens on the moon is because I'm seeing activity. It's not something that I'm wishing exists, right? It doesn't change anything to me, whether they exist or not. My personal belief is that aliens and extraterrestrials exist all throughout the galaxy. Sure, maybe there was an alien connection. I think that alien connection is something that's going to happen every few hundreds of years, maybe many hundreds of years, maybe 1,000 years. As they are watching us evolve, it only makes sense that somebody is here watching us. Many names that we call these watchers, spiritual guides, some call them the fallen angels. I mean, sometimes I go through theories myself where I feel like the fallen angel, right? Because we're here in hell, and Earth really is like hell. There's so many horrible things that happen to us amongst the good things, but there's always something there to bring us down a little bit. So unless you're a very positive person, especially these days, it's very hard on the emotions of people, whether you're depressed or not. Seeing all this horrible action around us in the world, in all the countries, and now not being able to express ourselves, even when there's a death in the family. We were limited in our freedom of speech, and that's something that can never disappear. We don't have to burn down buildings to keep our freedom of speech. Just say no to anything they offer you that you don't agree with. But there's one thing we have to do, is that we have to stick together. As one, we will be seen a lot stronger than all individual attacks. If everyone agrees with the same thing, that's what we should have done during the Capitol. The blacks and the whites, I know most of us did. You Americans did. I know it. 100%. But it looks bad, the image, right? So we got blacks, whites fighting, pinks, blues, whatever you want, amongst other races. If we would come together and tell the governments enough bullshit, well, I'm not going to fight with my black neighbor, and you're not going to make me fight with my white neighbor. And that's how we have to hold ourselves together. And I'll be honest with you, it's probably the only reason why we're still here as a human race, because the people always stand up. Sometimes at the last minute, hopefully we're not too much at the last minute, but we stand up for our rights. So the story that I'm telling you about Valiant Thor is all mixed with a lot of maybe facts, lies, right? We don't know what's real, what's not. So how to screw someone up is that you add more information. Take a big lie or even a big truth and just add some lies in that, and then it screws everything up. But all the information that's out there, the Harley Bird, supposedly the grandson of Bird, I mean, who am I to say that he's not? But Harley Bird, this is how they're getting back at the story. They're saying that Harley Bird talks nonsense, makes all manner of bizarre claims about gray aliens, Sasquatch, Aryans. Oh, I know, right? You're saying like me, oh, those are my interests. Well, some of us do have that interest, and there's nothing wrong with being interested in something mysterious or unknown or that even people disagree with. We follow the trends. Anything anyone else does, a neighbor does, well, we're going to try to basically follow along the line of them. Look at the people in China. I have to say it. You all know it. All the people in China that are talking about the CCP not being corrupt and being a great government and stuff like that, they have to. It's part of their job. They're inside of the country, and anyone talking against the CCP, even on social media, will get a call from the government agent in China. How scary is that? In Shanghai, all the lights that are off now, welding people into their buildings. Anyways, I could get into this so deeply, but I won't. So like I said, Harley Bird talks nonsense, they say. Not me, but what they're saying makes, bizarre claims about gray aliens, Sasquatch, Aryans, and other alien types, right? Commercializes the whole profit. Harley Bird is actually a huckster, they say, who merely poses as Bird's grandson to sell these bogus diaries. So apparently there's diaries about this. There's lots to this story, and as I'm getting into the story of Valiant Thor, there's a lot of people talking. But Laura Eisenhower, just brushing her off like that, I don't know. Third Phase of Moon had her on often enough, I think, or maybe once. Anyways, I saw it recently, interviewing her, and she's talking openly about the existence of aliens and about a lot about what her great-grandfather was doing. So Laura Eisenhower is, however, who she claims to be, but is perhaps not the best expert. Now, why would they? Okay, so this is just opinions of what people are saying, right? I'm not going to judge her. If not, I can't be mad at people judging me. People need to have good judgment, that's for sure. But Laura Eisenhower, just the fact that she touches the family of the Eisenhower family, and we all know what supposedly Eisenhower did about going to retrieve that alien disc, even would have supposedly formed a team to go and retrieve that disc. So you have to wonder. So Laura Eisenhower lists herself as her own website as a global alchemist, love it, researcher and intuitive astrologist, she says. What's wrong with that? My global work, she says, has been about opening natural stargates and assisting in the activation of the 13th stargate through consciously being a part of the grounding of the mother arc energies into the earth core. So she's a bit ahead in her studies, and when you hear that, even myself, it's like a bit woof. Okay, you know, what can I have as an opinion about Laura? I don't have one. She's a how can I say? She believes in herself. She's not afraid to speak up about what she believes in, and me sitting here is talking about spirits and goblins and ghosts that are actually around me in my own home. Who would I be to laugh at her about stargates when I'm dreaming about them myself? The stargates. It could be real, you know. On Mars, Andrew Basiago went there, archaeological site. Hayima Shed, defense minister, retired defense minister, says the states have hybrids working for them inside of Mars and stuff. So how advanced are they, and what parts of these stories are real? Are you like me? The past 2 years, we've been hearing more in depth about all these stories, many different stories, and it's not necessarily helping us decide what's true and what's not, right? Laura Eisenhower counts herself as part of the disclosure movement among ufologists who believe the government is withholding evidence of aliens. Not for nothing that they're hiding my channel, guys. I'm telling you, they are going to eat me alive, right? Until I'm proven wrong. Laura describes her role in the disclosure as this. She says, and I quote, "My piece has to do with exposing an attempted recruitment I went through. She was recruited, supposedly, to go off of the planet to a Mars colony, and this would have been in 2006. This is Laura Eisenhower. Getting interesting? You want me to repeat that? She says, Laura Eisenhower, my piece has to do with exposing an attempted recruitment I went through to go off planet to a Mars colony in 2006, and also in revealing the energies and galactic history of the great cosmic and Earth Mother, who is supporting our growth as we heal, activate, and transform together into the crystalline silicate matrix. The closest to evidence of anything in Strange's book is a series of photographs that he reproduced, which show a group of a dozen or so clean-cut young people gathered in chairs at some kind of outdoor event. Many important people were seen at that event. Strange's said they were taken a month after Val's arrival, Valiant Thor, at an informal, I've been to informals gatherings before. They hide them. Can't even talk about them. Informal UFO gathering at the High Bridge, New Jersey farm of Howard Menger, a sign painter who claimed to be a lifelong alien abductee. Strange's identifies 4 of the people seated as Val, Thor, Dawn, Jill, and Tanya, all members of Valiant Thor's supposed crew. These photos are widely available online, but other than the photographer's name being given as August C. Robert, I was able to find no information myself about them whatsoever. As far as being useful evidence goes, it's an unremarkable photo of anonymous people with no verifiable provenance. According to Strange's, Val Thor and his entire crew are still aboard their spacecraft called Victor 1. It would be parked near the shoreline of Lake Mead in Nevada, Strange's explained to host Tracy Austin on the Let's Talk Paranormal radio program. Now, Eisenhower has a lot to do with the theory around Majestic 12 group, right? You ever heard of them? Have you ever heard of Eisenhower having supposedly gone to have retrieved a disc that was crash landed here on Earth? The United States Air Force retired to the custody of the National Archives its records on Project Blue Book relating to the investigation of unidentified flying objects. Project Blue Book has been declassified and the records are available for examination in our research room. And you can head to theblackvault.com if you want to go and see more information about everything that was declassified about MJ-12. FBI or not, it's a good website to show us some things. I don't judge anyone for being an FBI or CIA agent. I know there's good and bad in everything. I'll leave it at that. Project Blue Book closed in 1969, and we have no information on sightings after that date. The National Archives has received numerous inquiries concerning documents identified as MJ-12 and briefing document Operation Majestic 12. We have made extensive searches among the records in our custody of the U.S. Air Force and the Joint Chiefs of Staff to identify these documents. The Truman and Eisenhower libraries have also searched their holdings for any reference to or copies of the documents. In addition, the records of the National Security Council, NSC, for the Truman and Eisenhower administrations are in the custody of the National Archives. Searches were made of the indexes to the NSC's policy paper and meeting minute file under the subjects MJ-12, Majestic, unidentified flying objects, UFO, flying saucers, extraterrestrial biological entities, and Aquarius. These searches were all negative with the exception of a memorandum for General Twining from Robert Cutler, Special Assistant to the President's Subject NSC MJ-12 Special Studies Project, dated July 14th, 1954. The memorandum, one page, refers to a briefing to take place on July 16th. The memorandum does not identify MJ-12 or the purpose of the briefing. it remains a conspiracy. Apparently, the FBI would have, whether it be true or not, would have either taken out or tried to hide certain parts of this. When I say the FBI, we can't really... I mean, from what I understand, inside of the FBI, you have a whole bunch of different people with different goals, right? And sometimes on the inside, some leaks come out, whether it be the CIA or FBI. We know the CIA leaked the information for MK Ultra mind controlling. So I like to believe that maybe someone is trying to save this world, hopefully. So MJ-12, an organization that appears in UFO conspiracy theories. The organization is claimed to be the codename of an alleged secret committee of scientists, military leaders, and government officials, the ones running the world now, formed in 1947 by an executive order by U.S. President Harry S. Truman. We learned a whole lot about executive orders this year. As a Canadian, I did the research to go find out how many executive orders each president has put out. Sometimes it ranges from 200 for one president to 1,000, 1,500 for another president. Eisenhower is one that had many executive orders. So it was by an executive order by the U.S. President Harry S. Truman to facilitate recovery and investigation of alien spacecraft. The concept originated in a series of supposedly leaked secret government documents first circulated by ufologists in 1984. Upon examination, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, declared the documents to be completely bogus. It's important for you guys to know that too. And many ufologists consider them to be an elaborate hoax, but they say many ufologists. Maybe, I don't know about that. Majestic 12 remains popular among some UFO conspiracy theorists. I hate that word now, conspiracy theorists. And the concept has appeared in popular culture, including television, film, and literature. Do you see how the internet manipulates the minds of everyone, changing the perception of everything? It makes me sick, honestly. The concept of Majestic 12 emerging during a period in the 1980s when ufologists believed there has been a cover-up of the Roswell UFO incident and speculated some secretive upper tier of the United States government was responsible. The Shandera archives, apparently, to be written by President Eisenhower's assistant, Robert Cutler, to General Nathan F. Twining, and containing a reference to Majestic 12. The memo is widely held to be a forgery. So you see, we have that as information. So when the truth comes out, I believe, they pass it off as a forgery right away. It doesn't mean, it's just a theory. But they're blowing everything off. They're saying Roswell didn't happen. They're saying that, Valiant Thor didn't happen. And even for what I'm filming around the moon, saying that there's no lights on the moon. But now they themselves, the Pentagon, the United States government came out with these two reports after more than 50 years of having not reported this, last since Roswell. So the changes that they did during Roswell, there were more changes that came out with the Roswell incident, and they're still coming out with information about the Roswell incident. So whether it be real or not, hey, there's not 100,000 researchers working on this. But you know what the problem is? Most of the researchers, and much respect to them all, that's why I'm doing this, but it just so happens I have some of my own research and footage of proof of alien existence. Not everybody is lucky enough to capture a UFO fleet. I was able to capture a UFO fleet winding from left to right, flying by, almost invisible at high, excessive rates of speed. So if that doesn't scare you or intrigue you that life is very possible outside of Earth, I don't know what would. Life does exist, I believe. I'm not here to prove and confirm it, but I'm here to share my visual proof and evidence on my own time investigating all this mysterious, secretive, different fields, right? Ufology, science. Once you get your nose into those fields and amongst many other fields, you start to see that in the fields themselves, people are disagreeing. Everything is theoretical. So if you have a theory to bring to the table about what you think happened after having heard all this information, just maybe you're going to come up with an incredible theory that will be better than all the theories that everyone else has had. I think it's important for us to put our minds together to talk about all of it. Claiming to be connected to the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations, a man named Richard Doty told filmmaker Linda Moulton Howe, see, she's a filmmaker, okay? Ever notice how all the filmmakers are the ones that have dibs on everything? I'm not putting Linda Moulton Howe down. Open your eyes all the way from the one that leaked the Navy UFO video was a filmmaker himself, right? Stanley Kubrick, a filmmaker himself. But the research that I'm doing is more important for me than making movies, that's for sure. Sure, one day maybe I'll make a documentary on it all. But so Richard Doty, long story short, told filmmaker Linda Moulton Howe that the MJ-12 story was true and showed how Linda unspecified documents to prove the existence of small gray humanoid aliens originating from the Zeta Reticuli star system. But now we have, hold on. Doty, Richard, reportedly promised to supply Howe with film footage of UFOs and an interview with an alien being. But where is it? There is no footage that ever materialized about these claims. So as much as I have respect for everyone researching out there, I just wish people would realize that what I found on the moon corroborates in every story that's ever existed about ufology related pertaining to the moon. The information should really get out there. More people should be looking at it. So just my opinion, the researchers, when I reached them and I showed them, because I did reach them or tried to show them the information that I had and the real visual proof and evidence on film with a large telescope, several times, many of the same similar captures that someone's on the moon. If I don't get a reply from researchers, it's because they're not researching. I'm sorry. The truth is out there. All these researchers are picking up stuff on everyone's channels to try to show people what is out there. You know, whether they're theories, facts, or not. I'm not here presenting anything as confirmed. I'm just showing visual proof and evidence that there definitely is someone on the moon. So now, is Valiant Thor real? Maybe it's not the real name. Maybe it's not the right planet. But maybe they're turning, beating around the bush to try to wake some people up. In some ways, I do see inside of that evil, corrupt, disgusting system that there are a lot of people now trying to push through the cracks some of the truth, but they can't come out and scream it out. People have to pick up and read between the lines. One last thing before I let you all, relieve you all to go back to your duties. Guys, my research is what all the researchers should be talking about, because I actually have visual proof and documented filmed evidence of similar captures, more than one of the same captures at different times and dates, different moon phases, seeing activity. So instead of people saying, well, there's certain things, I don't agree with that, Bruce, because, they say this, or the Anunnaki is this, or the Anunnaki is that. I respect all the other theories also and ideas, but everything that people talk about ufology, it's all theory. It's all based on facts and accumulated evidence that you accumulate on the internet, that you find, that you research, and you try to find whether it's true or not. You find its source, its credibility. It's not easy, right? It's not like just throwing a documentary together or a video and just saying, well, that's that. It's humans on the moon and Mars exploded 100 million years ago. And let's get some real evidence and proof of lights in the sky. We could talk about propulsion. We could talk about anti-gravity. I'm interested myself in the videos. They show images and they talk for 25 minutes about teleportation, get millions of views. I mean, kudos to them. Hats off. But in reality, people aren't looking for real source evidence, proof, facts. Raw evidence is what I like presenting. So what I'm capturing on the moon, there definitely is someone there. So as for Valiant Thor and MJ-12 and all this, they can blow it off all they want. We already know that aliens exist, and whether we can fight or not on, what's left. And I mean, look at these researchers. I'm inspired in doing this myself because of researchers like Linda Moulton Howe and all the other ones that we can appreciate, all the ufologists and all the people that spoke up and did hard work. A few defense ministers also. We lost the one in Canada, unfortunately, very recently. But it all comes down to finding the truth. And the evidence is here, and it's my footage that should be presented or shared with researchers to have them say, well, what is this? It's exactly what they're saying that they're trying to prove. There's nothing more than visual evidence, proof, and like direct film capturing several captures on the moon. So, of course, for those just arriving to the channel and you're interested in UFO research, please take the time to check out my UFO research. I post everything I get, both in infrared, telescope, and cameras. Thanks again for listening in, everyone. Have an amazing afternoon or evening. And again, I hope this podcast was interesting for you all. Thanks again.